Okay, moving on to item C, approval of the Coy Grant Awards. Can I get a motion to approve the Coy Grant Awards?
So moved. Second.
I'm sorry, did we say what they were? Did we say it last time or something? I'm missing.
That was before the COI had meetings. You were thinking when the presentation of the actual grant, is that what you're referring to?
Well, if we're gonna approve them, I'm just curious, do we know?
Well, we'll have that discussion now. We got the motion in a second to bring it to the floor.
Oh,
We'll have the
okay,
discussion.
okay, thanks. I didn't follow that. I don't know where, my brain lately has been.
So those are on page 66.
Okay, thank you.
Our first, this is our first funding cycle under the new COI committee. And so we're having, during this fiscal year, we will have 3 funding cycles, September 1st, December 1st, and March 1st. So this round, as I mentioned to Trustee King, we kind of advertised it lightly. But in spite of that, we received 4 applications. They were all school related. And so this provides a summary of what those requests were for. In our September meeting, there was much dialogue about these requests. And the committee did a great job of saying what the intention of the Committee on Youth is and what it's meant to support, and looking at how these different requests promote the 40 developmental assets, which help to reduce juvenile delinquency and promote positive behaviors. So these are the recommendations that they came up with for Clinton Rosette Middle School. It was requested for $5,000, but the committee is comfortable with $500. The main objection there is that Clinton Rosette wanted funds for field trips, and they say it's for cultural integration, but it wasn't anything to do with our culture. It was for Great America and Museum of Science and Industry, and what was the other one? Is that aquarium?
It was one of the museums in Chicago, I know that.
Yeah, so we thought that if they want to immerse students in the culture of our community, that like Elwood House, maybe things more local. So that's why the committee came up with that $500 recommendation to support materials for the tutoring program. Huntley Middle School, that's the next one. They have a behavior or an incentive program for behaviors, MTSS, which I can't remember what it stands for. And so teachers will award students points for behaviors that they demonstrate, and then students can take those points and go to the school store and purchase things. And they had a whole list of items they would like to have in the school store. Some of the list of items the committee supported, other things not so much. And so that's, they had requested $4,500 and the committee was comfortable recommending $2,500. The next item was a PE teacher who requested Gaga ball pits. It's a dodgeball kind of sort of game. And these are physical pits that you play the game in. She requested anywhere from 1 to 3. And so one pit, the cost is $646.47. And so the committee was comfortable funding just one pit instead of all 3. And then Huntley Middle School, there were 2 teachers that wrote, they share classroom libraries apparently. And with the diverse student population, they want their library to match the diversity of the students. And so they requested $500 so that they could purchase more books that students could relate to. And we fully support that one. The interesting thing with that one is the the full request, the full amount of, to do what they wanna do is like $1,000 or something like that. Or no, 750.
$750 and they were both putting up.
Yeah, both
money.
teachers were putting in 125 of their own to make these books available. So those are the requests we received. And like I said, the next funding cycle is December 1st. So if the board approves all these, then what will happen next is when we cut the check to the school for these programs, to support these programs, they will be given a post program data sheet to provide information back to us so that we can get reports on how these things turned out. Any questions?
I have a question. How is this different than supporting the library?
It's
Especially
not.
It's
So I actually had a huge issue with this and they all went against me, but I feel like the DeKalb School District has its own board. It's a taxing body. And I actually dug into it and they don't even offer grants for the teachers or anything. So,
We did
Okay.
say that we were going to ask principals about some of these things and how they would support them otherwise.
because in my opinion, like the gym teacher, the school district should be providing that. That's gym equipment. The incentive stuff, I feel like the school should be providing that. Teachers shouldn't have to pay for that out of their money. If the school wants to do that as an incentive program, then they should fund it. They shouldn't have to come to the township to request funds on their own, not even like a head person from the school asking for it. It's individual teachers, which to me shows lack of support in our schools district, but you know.
They also have a full-time grant writer.
I encouraged Nancy to go to a board meeting and express her opinions.
It kind of takes me off.
Sounds like it's more than kind of, but.
well, and I know that they provide
The majority of our
Funding.
tax bill and they can't provide our teachers with money to fund their classrooms, like that's.
I 100% agree.
yeah, I know that they provide other kind of funding too. So I was just curious as I looked at it, as you kept reading, I'm thinking, how is it different than the library? And
I said no to
This
all of
is-
them except for the teachers' library.
oh, okay, which is like the library.
But she's a
Well,
non-voting.
yeah, I can't vote, so
Right, well, no, I understand, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that was my first question, and we haven't spoken.
well, and that's
so-
why I'm really trying to push them, like, these need to be nonprofit organizations. The problem is no one's applied. So we need to figure out how to outreach better. Like, I was so, dude, they're lucky I did not go to that board meeting because I was so fired up about it. And they're all like, come on, we could do, I'm like, no.
And you know, I know people reach out, I know for a fact that other people donate money because they have a book club that Clinton Rose at, and for 2 or 3 years in a row, I bought all the books for them. So I know there's people who donate money like
There
that.
are, but why should us as a community have to do that when,
That's my point exactly, and that's.
They just built a salt shed 3 times bigger than what they'll ever need on the road here. Sorry, that's my 2 cents.
Hey, that won't.
I'd like to have one that big.
I will bring this feedback back to the Committee on Youth. And, you know, as we promote the applications more, as Nancy so wishes, hopefully we will get more not-for-profits or in, you know, churches that have youth groups. And then we will
Boy Scout.
Yeah.
Or,
be making even tougher decisions.
So these are all individual teachers that came asking for this stuff.
Mhm.
But their principals had to sign off on it.
Does seem
I
weird.
think that's even crazier. How do they have to sign off on something that you're going to seek on your personal time?
That what?
Like, why did the principal have to sign off on it if they're doing it on their own?
Well, they probably did it during school time and we're not giving money to that person, we're giving money to the school, so the
And they would use it in the school.
principal is agreeing that it'll be used for that purpose.
Oh,
I'm just concerned about the consistency. I mean, we did do it for the library. It's like, I get it that we can do it. I
That
was
was
just
kind of the
curious. How
argument.
was that? Yeah. Cause that's, I know, some people.
Well, if you recall, I voted against the library, but it was my misunderstanding. I thought the library books were for the library, but trustee King told me they were for the kids to keep, right?
Yeah,
They
they're
were for
giving
the
them away
kids
to
in
the
that
kids.
program, yeah.
And that's a little bit in my mind that the kids get to actually take those home, but if we're supplying books and supplies to stay in a building that's a taxing body, that's where I kind of draw the line, and that's why I thought the library was the same issue. And I bring up the same issue with this, that I thought the library was, they already taxed, it's double dipping at that point.
Well, and none of them were fully, well, the classroom library was fully funded, but the other ones were not.
This library was fully funded?
The last
And they were
one,
putting
the
money,
classroom library,
they were putting money out of pocket too.
their request was fully funded. The other,
Oh, I see, fully funded, yeah.
Well,
They were adding to it,
normal.
yeah,
yes,
yeah, total cost, I understand.
so,
Isn't the COI limit? Didn't we used to have a limit on how much we'd give out?
yes, and now that has increased, because we're mid fiscal year and have these funds, so, it's a maximum of $5,000.
And it looked like the total request was almost 12,000 and the total give was what, four, just over 4,000. Okay.
Oh yeah, they were asking for popcorn machines and all kinds of stuff. So we basically funded. The like rewards and. Right, it was the rewards and
It was the,
they did like logo water bottles or something like that.
yeah, we limited. A big discussion was they wanted, requested funds for Chromebook chargers. I had a real problem with that. And I have a real problem with why the school district charges $30 for a lost Chromebook charger when you go on Amazon, and you can buy one
For
for,
$15, they have to price.
that's another question we're gonna get back to.
These kindergarten are losing the Chrome.
I don't think kindergartners get Chromebooks.
No.
When did it start, second grade?
Second grade, yeah.
So,
Been a while.
It's about the same, second grade.
so we seem to be having similar conversations at the committee level and at the board level about taxing bodies, and so I will take this back to the Committee on Youth, and I will also talk to Brad about, or I guess I should ask, would you like me to go back and talk to attorneys on modifying the COI bylaws to say who we will and won't fund, if that's something that,
It'll be interesting to see what his recommendations are for it too, and then maybe we can incorporate those.
okay?
Well, it would be more than the COI. The COI parameters, right, because we didn't talk about the parameters based on COI last time. We did it based on
That was human service
taxing,
funding.
yeah, taxing bodies, so I think I think it's a larger conversation, but I think it impacts COI.
Mhm.
So I would, if you're gonna talk to him, I would talk to him about the larger conversation and its impact on COI.
Right, because it'll have a filter down effect, if it's a township level. Or
Right,
any support,
right, it goes, yeah,
right, because like the Knox box programs for the fire department.
yeah, well, I mean, if we're gonna be consistent,
But that's something that the public uses, not the fire department.
Exactly, and
So
that gets
there's
attached to someone's
splitting
house,
hairs.
that's how I reconcile it in my mind, that.
That's different.
I think the Knox box thing, because it goes directly to the taxpayer, where you're going to the
They're just
taxpayer.
installing it and organizing it for them,
Right.
so.
I think that's a big difference.
Yeah.
I like, and I know I don't have a vote, let me first say, helping these two teachers out that are willing to put up their own money, I don't have as much problem with that as I do helping the school district for not properly funding some of
That
the
was
stuff
pretty much
that I
my
think
issue.
That's my personal opinion,
Yeah.
and as a taxpayer of this township, I will say.
And that's how I originally got involved in donating books to the book club, is because my daughter was actually in the book club and the teacher was spending her own money. I said, that's ridiculous. If you're teaching my child, the school won't support you. The least I can do as a parent is buy all the kids' books at that point. And it's not incredibly expensive. You know, you look at the grand budget of the school district and what it costs to support a book club, it's only a couple $100 to buy all the kids in a book club of books.
Unless you buy them from Scholastic.
Oh, on Amazon, yeah, I guess that makes a difference too.
Yeah, I just think consistency is important. And I do think that even in being consistent, that there are exceptions and there are situations that call for going beyond the letter of the parameters and more to the spirit. For example, our audit thing, right, it's late, but I don't think that, there's no penalty. And you said that's like.
And it's a statewide problem. It's not like it's just because of us or who we've hired as an auditor.
No, I get it, but I'm saying consistently, like there's no penalty for that,
Right.
and so I think that there are times when it's like when you drive down the highway, you can get a warning or you can get a ticket. So there are boundaries. Some are permeable and some are not, but I think we should be consistent.
Well, for tonight's
That's
sake,
important.
yeah, consistently, we have not funded.
Wait, what?
What? We, sorry, we have not declined.
Yeah, and I don't raise this issue because I'm against funding. I raise this issue because it just seems
Yeah. Well, this,
blatantly
Schools
inconsistent
should provide
with the
that.
conversation. Well, I'm not even thinking about that. It's just inconsistent.
I am.
Well, I'm not saying it's not worthy of thought. I raised it because it's inconsistent with the commentary that we had about the library. And so I'm curious, and ironically, the piece about, oh, we want to do stuff for our school library, it just smacked me in the head. But certainly other people can have other reasons for why they think that. That's just my reason.
And my issue with it is it's enabling the school to not have the school district to not fund those things if we do it, and we just become enablers of that. And for our constituents, that will go look at, a double dip. And why are we paying taxes to the school district and to the township when the township is just giving money to the school district? And as a constituent, and I like to think I'm speaking on behalf of the constituents at this point. That doesn't seem right, and it doesn't sit well. But but to our benefit, that we even discussing it, and that we're all uneasy with that to some degree, to say that we would get stewards of the money and we'll make progress on it, and that's sort of thing we can ask for.
well, this is ultimately our decision, so we'll take a vote on it and proceed from there. And because we have a COI meeting next week, and so
And it's in a minute, so it's certainly something to bring up.
Yep.
To at the COI
yeah,
meeting.
so if this can be captured in the dialogue, be captured in the minutes. So any other discussion? Are we ready for roll call?
Are we voting all or nothing? Or are we voting? on
Yeah,
each
it's gotta
individual?
be,
I don't.
yeah, it's approval of the,
Approval, all of them or not?
All right, trustee McNutt,
No.
trustee Thurman,
No,
trustee Bradlow,
Abstain.
trustee King,
Yes, aye.
and supervisor Huss.
yes. I don't know what we do in the case of a tie
I
vote.
think it goes to the clerk.
No, that's only for.
That's only for
appointments.
elected appointments, yeah.
All right, well, we're gonna table this
Let's go to the next.
until next month. Cause I don't know what to do when.
Sorry, I can't just
I know.
vote on it.
No, you can't, cause you're a COI liaison. All right, well, this item is tabled. Nope. All right, I will follow up with the attorney on both of those things. All right, item D, can I get a motion to approve resolution 2024-009T awarding annual human service funding allocations? I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion, on page 67 is, a summary of what the, committee decided as far as support for our annual human service funding. Page 69 is a summary of all of the applications we received, in the yellow. The request came to $338,000. And the committee, we have 225, I think in that line item, I can double check. And a decision was made, totaling 208,500. I'm gonna hand this over to trustee Thurman, since he's on that committee, for him to elaborate on.
Okay, I think this committee is a little bit different than the COI, so. Yeah, because these are all non-for-profit groups, and I believe there were 8 groups that didn't receive money from us last year who asked, who submitted grant requests. And almost everyone asked for,
Thanks.
a lot more than what they asked for the pay, a couple places, but nothing here should be too surprising. Most of these places from last year that were about the same. And what was a little bit different, when we had some questions to be asked, and we were able to call some of the agencies that we had questions for and get responses from. And that cleared up quite a bit of some of the questions we had about, particularly with I'm trying to think of the group now.
Oh, well, there was AID, there was Ben Gordon Center,
Ben Gordon Center.
4C, NASA.
And you can see it, well, I guess there's a list of services, the Venture Works is gonna receive the 12.5, for example. Let me point out a couple of the newer ones. AID, which is the Association of Individual Development, this is the first time making a request, they requested 5,000, we saw fit to give them about $4,000. We tried to have some type of, at least a little bit of standard for, groups that we know about and had a lot of information about, to give them money appropriately based on the service that they're given. And there are a couple of places that are fairly new, like Opportunity DeKalb, requested about $10,000. We gave them about a quarter of that because as they're still developing, this is their first request. But it seems like they want to do a lot of good work for the township, the city and the township, but they're just establishing themselves. But some of the people that we know are doing quite a bit, Ben Gordon, CASA, Hope Haven, we had a couple questions about those reconciled. The only one I think the questions are not reconciled with was the Salvation Army.
Yeah, finally had a conversation with them. We have a meeting with them in 2 weeks. They requested funding for rental and utility assistance, and that's what we do.
General system.
So we're gonna have we're gonna meet with them to discuss other needs that they're seeing in the calls that they receive, the individuals they serve, and see if there's a gap in service. We did set aside $15,000 for them in case there's something that they can do that no one else is already doing.
And we had some questions about VAC as they reorganize, but they were able to clarify that they still serving the DeKalb Township pretty strongly, and nothing has changed, and not even the organization. At one point, we thought their leadership changed. And it wasn't so clear on the funding information file, but when we talked to VAC, they made sure that they're still servicing the people.
Not VAC, ramp.
Ramp, on the ramp, it's already VAC, ramp. Ramp back.
gotta say it backs all over my roads.
Oh, yeah, ramp, I'm sorry, ramp, that's ramp.
Can I ask, what is Fox Valley Community Services? That name just struck out.
Elderly care?
Yeah, they're in the back of the elder care building, so they
Okay.
have like an adult daycare
Okay,
where people can bring family members who aren't safe to stay alone.
yep, makes sense.
And one of my favorite programs is the We Care Pregnancy Center, and we had a presentation on them, maybe about a year ago at the police department, and they
That's
had.
1 year.
Oh, yeah, it might have been here, and that's just one of the really good programs in the Habitat for Humanity. And, you know, all of these programs are doing a lot of good for our community, our constituents, particularly our elderly, our young, and then quite a few in between with,
Mental health.
mental health, yeah, a big thing.
And each one of these organizations, we work closely with through our general assistance programs, so we can make referrals and receive referrals so that we're, you know, it's a warm handoff for people they're servicing or that we're helping.
And all of these organizations are committed to promoting the services that we provide to them through them in some type of that publication, and that we'll reach out to them again. They could tell us how they use the money effectively and kind of keep track of what's going on. But do you have any, you know, I guess the consumer credit counseling was another one we thought would be pretty, fairly new, but we thought it'd be good for some of our community to help them manage their money, and that's that'll service everyone and regardless of their age or demographic. Do you have any questions about any of those?
I have a question, couple of questions. One about community credit counseling. How will people access that, people in the township? How will they?
We promote it, they do Zoom programs, or they'll come in and do in-person programs. So sometimes they'll come in and do things for our general assistance clients,
Okay.
because once a month we require the general assistance clients to come here and participate in a presentation of some type. So 2 months ago, was it last month or the month before? It was consumer credit counseling, addressing the topic of rent. And then that was also Zoomed so that members of the public could participate. So we did advertise that through the community. And so we funded them last year, and with the agreement that they would do 4 presentations for us on different topics. And so those have been offered, and people are going in through Zoom and they'll customize to what we request.
Okay. My other question is elder care services. I thought we did some of that, no?
Look, that's an actual organization, that's the name of the organization, Elder Care Services. And I can't remember exactly the program, because, you know, so this funding, the agency would say, you know, part of the grant is say, these are the services that we have.
It was for cognitive and behavioral support program.
Right, and it was a cognitive program that they particularly asked for support for, because they were just, I can't remember the exact details, but they were lacking in the funding that they had for that particular program inside of that agency.
And the purpose of that program is, you know, as people are aging and they start to have some memory issues and that, they'll go in and do assessments in the home and provide them support. So the goal is to help people remain in their homes longer with outside supports.
I guess I was thinking of like the senior center. Isn't that?
That's with Family Service Agency, and that is one of the things that they requested, senior services. They requested funding to support that Club 55.
And
Okay, that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking of, yeah. And I thought we had something to do with that, no?
We're part of Triad, which provides community programming specifically for seniors, but right now we don't do anything really targeted towards seniors.
Oh, okay.
and we try to remain cognitive that we would not donate, you know, overlapping efforts from different agencies. So, and then one of the questions asked the agency, have you investigated other agencies who provide the same service to make sure there's not a bunch of overlap in the services you provide for this community, or that we provide right size an amount of services that we provide for, if that makes any sense.
To avoid duplication of
Yeah,
services.
exactly. We don't want to duplicate services.
Are most of these DeKalb,
They're all DeKalb Township.
no, I mean DeKalb City?
Most of them in the city, but all of them in the.
No, I know all of them will be in the township. I'm just saying most of them are here.
Yeah, well,
So I'm thinking, people in other areas.
there were some agencies, there's some agency that serve multiple towns or townships. But one of the questions we ask is what percentage of the population that you serve is actually DeKalb Township residents? And we factored that in with how much money we decided to contribute to the grant.
Right, that's not my question. DeKalb Township though is larger than DeKalb Town,
Right.
city. So I'm wondering if these agencies serve anybody else more like they serve DeKalb. If I'm in DeKalb, I can take advantage of these.
Absolutely.
And if I'm not in DeKalb, if I'm someplace else, like, I don't know.
Sycamore?
Or Eldon.
Well, not Elgin, right?
But-
They're not in DeKalb Township.
Oh, like, within the county boundaries, like Genoa or someplace like that, I think is what you're saying.
Or within the township boundaries.
So like the
The
part
small
of
portion of
Sycamore that's in DeKalb Township.
Right.
I don't think that like the YMCA would not turn anyone away. Well, I don't think they turn. anyone
No, I don't
away.
think so. I was just
Elder's
curious.
Because
Yeah.
they're really not tied to just the city boundaries. I don't see that on this list.
And actually, Lisa, that's one of the conversations that we had for next year's applications, is we're gonna include a map of what DeKalb Township is, because we're not sure that people understand that city boundaries are
What you're
different
doing,
from
yeah.
township boundaries. So
Right.
that's one of the things that we wanna help people understand.
I have a question. For Tish, the YMCA, before and after school programs, is that for the flighting fee scale or supplies, or did they tell you what they're using it for?
I think it was just to provide the services
Yeah, I
at the
think it was
school
operational.
location. Yeah,
Oh, that's, okay.
and
A
the,
lot of it was transportation.
right,
Yeah, I know they kind of like implant in each school.
and a similar organization, I know, with the Growing Place, that was for
Their playground,
Playground.
yeah, what though, cause they
Um,
charge for services.
they charge, yes, but I don't know that their budget can cover,
Do they subsidize low income,
yes.
right?
More than likely.
Some of that stuff.
So that their request was, and what's interesting, what I really liked about that one is the Growing Place and CLC are two different organizations, and they co-wrote this grant together, and they're gonna share the playground. So, it's a further reach of support.
This National Youth Advocate Program, are they connected to Northwestern or Ben Gordon, or no, they're on their own?
They truly are a national program, big in Ohio, and we hadn't heard a lot about them in the past. And I've seen their building on Bethany and didn't really know
Oh,
what they
okay, I
did.
didn't,
So we, as you can see, we only funded a fraction of what their request was, because they were asking us, they wanted to remodel some therapy rooms. And we didn't feel that was a good use of dollars, but so we were funding them $1,000 for,
little paint on the wall.
no, it's for therapy supplies.
Oh,
But Casey and I have a meeting with them later this month, so they can tell us more about what their organization does and see if there's ways that we can collaborate with them.
And another thing, we actually asked for the numbers of, the township residents that they actually, supported or benefited from their programs. And that was one of the ones, I think,
It was low.
it was low, but they met the minimum requirements for it, but they didn't serve as.
But they're right here, I mean, what,
They're based in Ohio and they service a lot of people and they just happen to have a branch here that it sounds like.
Yeah, I think that they may be,
up and coming, maybe?
yeah. I guess they do something that's, and again, because I haven't met with them yet, I don't know enough about it, but something with foster homes. Where they help children acclimate to new foster homes or something.
Oh, that's good.
I don't know enough about it.
Okay.
And anyway, that's another, I mean, I think we said that was an organization that we need to dig a little bit deeper into because just on the surface, it sounds like it has a lot of merits to it, but we just don't have enough information about it to make a complete decision.
And we asked for their budgets and their budget is enormous,
Oh, yeah, it was in the millions,
multi.
yeah.
Well, Ohio, the Ohio University, though. They're not struggling as much.
So any other questions about any of the allocations? Roll call please.
Trustee Bradlow,
Yes.
trustee King,
Aye.
trustee Thurman,
Yes.
trustee McNutt,
Yes.
and supervisor Huss.
Yes.
5 ayes and 3 nays, the motion passes.
Thank you. Item E, discussion of salary setting resolution. Can I have a motion to bring this discussion to the floor?
So moved.
I'll second.
So by November November 20th, we have to have our salary setting resolution approved. This is for salaries for the next 4 years. We've had discussions here and there. And so trustee Bradlow has done some work on this subject. A draft resolution is included in toward the end of, it's gonna hand out in your back of your board book. And so I'll hand it over to trustee Bradlow.
Well, last 2 weeks ago, I took the training for setting salaries. I've done some research, like comparing other counties that are like ours. And it seems, well, at the DeKalb, or the city of DeKalb recently agreed on 2.5, and I was leaning more towards 3, just based off of what I was finding. And that's actually on the low end. Not sure what else really to say about it.
Yeah, so those numbers reflect a 3% increase for each of the positions, 3% each year. I did have a conversation with Attorney Stewart, and he does a lot of negotiations for the different municipalities and units of government that he works with. And he said 3% is kind of the norm right now, based on what CPI has been. 3% is lower, obviously compared to what CPI has been, but that's, he hasn't seen really anything lower than 3%.
Lower or higher?
It's
He
Increase.
hasn't seen anything higher than.
correct. Well,
Yes.
yes, he has, but he hasn't seen anything lower than 3%. So that is, I guess kind of an average. And then the other thing in section 3, do you wanna, since it relates to you?
Yeah, and it's basically just a talking piece. So in section 3, Mary brought it to my attention last Friday. If I would be willing, I haven't researched this in many, many years, but the last was that I was aware of it, and I have not had time to reach out to the road district attorney. That with board vote and highway commissioner approval, that up to 50% of the salary of the highway commissioner can come out of the road district fund. as of it speaks right now, 100% of my pay and benefits come out of the township fund. So it's a talking point right now. That's as much information
Yeah,
as I can say, just because I haven't just, it's less than a week
yeah,
from the discussion. So,
but that's why there's a blank there. It wasn't,
yeah,
it's
so-
not, it was intentional.
yeah, and I need to reach out to John and see where that's at.
Yeah. Sorry, if I put you on the spot.
No, that's all right. I mean, I have no problem with that, but yeah, I think by the time this is.
For a vote.
For a vote, we will have, you know.
Truly, we should be voting on it next month,
Yeah.
We
right.
have to.
So,
right?
and there again, I don't know as if that has to be part of this either.
When I was wondering about like the insurance policies and like expense reimbursement, travel expenses, mileage for the seminars and trainings with provided receipts, right? That's what we always done.
Mhm.
Are you guys reimbursed for health insurance or is it taken out? Like,
The township or
Employees?
no, it's 100% funded.
okay. And then I did find, where was it? Sycamore supervisor currently makes 74K a year, where Mary's at 94, but their population's 18,000 and we're at 47 or 40,700. So, and we're clearly growing. And then we also talked about increasing the clerk's salary due to them taking on more duties. Yeah. That's something to think about. No one said anything to me, so I kind of just took the reins on it because I know the deadline's coming up. And then me and Mary work together to do this.
And you said from what Brad said, 3% represent the lowest end?
I just chose that because it seemed like kind of like the average,
Yeah, if it's the average, I would think there would be some lower
and
than.
I want to be fair, but not also
Yeah,
like,
yeah, the 3 couldn't be the average if the 3 is the lowest. then-
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Well.
maybe it's an average based on what you were looking at.
yeah, based on counties our size is what I was saying.
The average is 3%?
And my conversation with Brad is in his negotiations. He hasn't seen anything under 3%.
Did he tell you what the range is that he's seeing?
I don't know that he did. I really.
I don't think
recall.
that he can legally share that.
Well,
You
then,
know.
Yeah, I mean, 2.5%, 3% seems pretty normal to me.
yeah, 3% is about average. But, I mean, it's
City of
all.
DeKalb did 2.5 for comparison.
Yeah, I think the city's given 2.5 to their non-bargaining unit people for 25, I think.
That's just the article, what I could read of it because I won't pay for it.
No, I think you're right. I think it is.
I believe it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
For 2.5 for elected.
I believe that's what it was.
So I don't know how are we supposed to come up with something with it having to be voted on next month?
Well, that's what the conversation we're having tonight. So this is a draft and if kind of a head nod or,
I mean, like, to me, unless there's evidence that the average is way lower than 2.5 or 3, or way higher than 2.5 and 3, then that 2.5, 3 range seems normal to me.
Right, and given
You
the
know.
state of the economy,
Yeah.
I would fully expect.
Like if
most
you
of it
guys
to be
came and
great.
said, oh, here's all the assessors' salaries, and I'm well below the 50th percent or whatever, and
yeah.
everything was, and I feel like I should earn more, and then you said the same.
It's all based off of zones too.
And
Right.
my
And
reason.
that's a hard.
Everything that I
know.
mean,
It is, I was so
It's
confused.
basically fair.
Yeah.
So I'm not complaining. I don't think it should be raised. I don't think it should be lowered. I think it just the cost of living expense, the 2.5, 3%. Yeah, I think I'm right where from all of my research.
And from the latest financial forecast for the country, it is about 2.5% inflation is what they're expecting to get down to. So 3%
Well, we just got the numbers for CPI for our tax
It's
levies.
3.4.
3.4, and I believe it was quite a bit high, 5.5 last year, if I remember correctly. And that 3 is kind of making up for first year of this term that we're in right now. We ran flat, 0%. Then it was 2, 2, 2. But yet CPI for those 3 years has been 5. This year,
Yeah,
3.5.
everybody fell behind.
Everyone fell
Across
behind.
every career.
Right, absolutely, everyone fell behind.
We can never chase numbers like
No.
that.
Right, and that's understandable.
Yeah,
And that's not what I would ask
No, I
for
know.
either, right, by any means.
yeah, my concern is that, you know, the whoever's in a position that they get a fair amount of value in money for what they do, and, you know, because sometimes it can be a thankless job, and if people don't make enough money, that's just like open the door and incentive to do unsavory things, and I think that's a lot of what happened in Dalton. You know, people think that they're being slighted somehow, and that they have to make up or compensate it for. And there's nothing that you can do to totally eliminate that, but it's been a good steward of money. I think that as a trustee, that we should make sure that the people in positions here, like the, you know, trustees, assessors, that they should make a fair value for what they do, and you should be compensated for it. Because it is a lot, and people don't always understand the job. I didn't understand it before I saw it. A lot goes on. Craig doesn't clean the snow, I die. You know, there's no in between outside out the road, and that's value keeping people alive. You know,
That's why I was thinking of increasing, because we talked about adding duties to the clerk position. Which I don't know specifically what you said those would be.
Right now, we're putting employees to do clerk responsibilities, and it's been that way for many, many years. It's not something
Many.
that just happened.
Um,
And I want employees to do more for the community. And so in the next clerk, the preparations that go into, you know, the meeting, the board packet, right now, Kim makes those. And I mean, Andrew has been willing to, but we haven't had a good system. And posting stuff on our website and saving stuff to our server. That all takes time it's taking away from the employees doing their roles. And so I want to see the clerk, you know, taking those things
Well,
on,
you
and
added stuff to your plate, so you can't be taking.
right, and it took me being in here a term to understand what was, you know, the common practice and how we can change that, so the clerk.
Are the clerk numbers set at 3, 2, or is that?
Yes.
yeah, they're all.
I would think that the clerk, particularly if they're gonna be adding more responsibilities, would also be given maybe more
Kind of an
space.
adjustment raise.
Well, space and access, right? Because it's limited. I heard Andrew talk about a cabinet. And I know that the prior clerk mentioned something about space. And so if the person doesn't have space, then that has an impact. I know if my job was limited to, I don't know, when I come here, if I have another job, I mean, all of that, I think, plays a part in responsibilities. So are you gonna keep all of the roles that you have assumed? Or are you gonna give some of those up and just kind of be the supervisor?
I would just say that I would be very careful individualizing any of this,
Right.
because it is for the position, not for the person.
Well, that's what I mean.
Well, that's, if you let me finish, under the election code, none of us have to be here. You see what I'm saying? So none of us have any set hours, none of us have we have to fulfill the duties of our position, and what does that say?
Bare bones in a lot of cases.
And that's what I'm trying to get at, you know? So please don't look at this as you're paying Rich, Craig, or Mary, or whoever fills any of these other roles. It's that position, and it says now, whether we've made it a lot more, a lot less, that's up for you guys to decide. But you pay the position, you don't pay the person.
Right, my question is not about the person.
No,
My question is about Mary assumed a lot of responsibilities when she came. So my question is not Mary specific. My question is that the supervisor's role now? Perhaps I didn't ask it clearly.
I think that's,
And
but those
is that going to stay? Or will some of those responsibilities be hired
I'll
out?
take that, Craig. It would be the decision of who's the next supervisor.
and that's for any of our.
They could come in and just do the bare bones that's required by statute if they wanted to really be lazy.
And that was the thing I was getting at, incentivizing people to keep on that same path that we're already on. Like you come in and someone say, oh, that's not enough money, I'm not gonna do it, I'm gonna get these things away. And that's how services end up deteriorating.
Well, my question really was, I know that Mary, took a lot of responsibility when she came. So it's not about you, it's just about the role, the way that you saw the role and see the role or the position. And it's not really, Craig, Chad, about somebody being lazy. It's really about clarity and understanding. What is the nature of this role? And is this role specific to the person that's here? And I get that to a degree, but are there other, are there other responsibilities connected to this role that should be shared? And so I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that. I'm just asking. I do know that you took on a lot of different responsibilities. And so I'm just asking. It's not about who's coming next. It's not about me looking at a person. It's not even about me thinking about the dollar amount.
Oh,
It
100%.
really is just about those roles.
And all I can say, so I'll speak as being the longest term elected of these three positions,
Okay.
the full-time positions. I think everybody in this building right now has taken on an equal or greater stance than what was before, and I'm probably speaking as myself as the equal. So I think because Rich does not have to assess one piece of property in 4 years to be called the DeKalb Township assessor. He chooses to do that. He chooses to be here to make sure everything's done and look at them individually. Mary chooses, or I'm sorry, the supervisor chooses to do the book work or do all that she does, which is a ton more than any other of the supervisors that I have worked with personally. I can speak of that.
Right.
But there is nothing in the letter of the law, and that's what I was kind of getting at, that says any of that has to be done to be compensated for, and including my position. You know, I choose to be the one out in the middle of the night with the signs.
Right.
Instead of paying someone to do it. And, and costing the taxpayers more money.
Right.
So, I mean, it is, and this is a very hard deal, and it's been this way since I've been here. Because I do believe that, I mean, I can't say is that I won't take more money and keep doing what I'm doing, because that's who I am. But you're not paying me, you're paying the position of the highway commissioner.
And that's the thing we want to do, keep incentivizing those positions so that trend continues, and I was thinking, if you were paid half as much as you do, I don't know if you get up at 3
You'll
o'clock.
never get me out of
That's my point. You have to incentivize the people. We recognize that it's good that's been done. How do you keep that role and incentivized? Because that's how the constituents most benefit from the services that we provide, is that we keep providing incremental validity. So today we saying these things are valuable, but you're always talking about, let's do this to make these things for us more valuable. Let's be here in the office, let's be present. And there's value to that. And then I believe that we should reward those as much as possible. And that's the point where I'm at, that 3% for me will be a minimum, and I was thinking more in my mind, at least 3.5, because what we already discussed here now is saying that the group of full-time people do more than what the average people in those positions.
But the next might not.
Exactly, but we have a recourse of
But
4 years to correct that.
And I also would say that the bar has been set at a certain level where I think the voters will then solve that problem in 4 years, if it's not what they're expecting to see, so.
Yeah, if the next person is lazy and does the bare minimum that's
And
required by
or
the
fills a
statute.
building full of staff to do their job for them, and raises taxes that they don't need to do,
And I think 3% is going beyond that, then we're talking about more IMRF and,
I think
and that
3%
has some
more than that.
longevity. I think 3% is a responsible number because we don't want to have to be increasing our levy just to cover salaries, significantly.
And that's another reason, how many other supervisors would say, if I was in a position, I would say, 3% is just very little. Now, I don't know.
I raised the point.
I'm teasing it.
I raised the point when I was mentioning about the clerk and the space. To do more and to have access to more. That was really where I started. And then it became, wow, I know this supervisor does a lot.
Right.
And the previous supervisors didn't. And I think that there sometimes is efficiency. The harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few.
Right.
But the laborers don't have to be few, and you can still have a level of efficiency. And my understanding is that this current supervisor perhaps was learning every role. It's like a football player. You're better if you've been a football player and then you move to be a coach, right? Because you know every position and what they're supposed to do. It's not about the money at all. It was really, sincerely, a question, and the question about the clerk. And this is not right now just because of Andrew. The former clerk that was here talked about access to do some of the work that was required. And I don't know that was ever addressed, not my job to address it. I just heard it and I think it makes sense. And what you said about, what you do, it's sort of like when I go to my job, nobody tells me to turn on the light. I could sit there in the dark. But would I be as effective? I don't know. So there are things that we all do in our roles because it helps us to be effective. It helps us to get the job done. It helps us many times to exceed the expectation. And it's a reflection of who we are as individuals who have volunteered or have been elected to a role and the way in which we see that role. So it's not always about being lazy. It's not always about.
I didn't mean always lazy. I'm just saying that was one example. If we got,
Right.
if a newly elected
That just.
was lazy.
That's just my commentary based on what you said. I'm not attacking what you said. That's just my commentary based on it.
That was my example.
And I'm sorry?
And that was just my example to actually support what you were saying, that these guys do way much more. I was saying, well, if the next person that gets elected isn't one of these, and it's someone who's lazy, they might say, screw it, I'm just gonna do these 5 things that the statute says, and I'm not doing anything else.
Yeah, I hear
you
you
know.
saying that.
And hopefully that would never happen.
That's probably rare. I just took it when you jumped in there in that moment. I probably, I had an emotional response to that.
Oh, no, I was
So-
supporting what you're saying about
Okay.
these guys.
I got you.
And
So-
dreading the fact that we might get a lazy person someday, that
Oh,
would be
they
terrible.
probably wouldn't even run, but that's my point. I think that certainly we should, if we're gonna consider more for the clerk, and I don't know that we are, that we should think about some other things, and particularly if the thought is there will be more responsibility, then there needs to be access to whatever allows those responsibilities to happen.
Yep, totally agree.
So that
100%.
really,
Yeah.
that really is my point. That was my
Yeah.
point. I'm not saying cut anybody's salary, don't offer the people that. I'm saying that, with
Accessibility.
much, to whom much is given, much is expected.
Right.
So that's really my point.
And my point was, and I know I don't want to make this any longer, but is that I believe that the people of township are getting an incredible amount of value for the salaries that the people are being paid right now. And we want to keep it along the lines that they're getting incredible value. And I can lay my head down at night knowing that, and that makes me a little bit happy being a part of this group. That we get real value out of the money we get. I know we get more services than what we paying the people. And that's what I say, at some point you have to treat people very well so that they can stay and you can continue on that path. When people feel slighted, even good people, sometimes that turns them and say, well, maybe I shouldn't do this. And we want to keep them saying, maybe I should, rather maybe than saying, maybe I shouldn't.
Well, the other piece, Dale, as you know, I think as most people know, I'm not running again, so this doesn't really impact me. And that's no secret to the people on this board. So I don't have any issue with saying it. But I will say that having been on this board for some time, I don't disagree with your position. But what I also think is in the event that a person is not elected, or reelected, that some money or some cushion or the time that it will take for them to find another job, the time that it will take for them to take care of their family. I think all of that is provided in this salary.
Right.
It's not just that the expectation is that they're gonna do a great job, which is why the people in the township elect them. The expectation is that they're gonna do all the things that have been done. But in the event that that doesn't happen, or should something happen, I think that people, no matter who's sitting in the seat, should be able to provide for themselves and their family in the event that something happens. And I think this salary covers that. And I think the benefit of this salary versus somebody in another position is that the current people, should they be elected, are paying themselves. And that's very different than other positions, but I get it, majored in political science. So I know that's why we pay presidents and provide all of those perks, because we don't want them to be pulled away. And that's why presidents of companies, et cetera, do what they do, because we don't want somebody to pull you away. It's why when you work at Wendy's, even if you're not at the top, you can't go work at McDonald's, because we don't want you to give away their secrets. That's just the way we operate when we're dealing with capitalism. So I get you, but just so you know, I'm in support of paying folk. And if these folk had not been good, one of the things you learn in political science is, of course, as you know, right, you respect the position, even if you don't respect the person. And so that is the way that I operate. But my point really, as I brought it up before, was really about the clerk's position and their access to being able to get their responsibilities done. And if you're gonna add to that, or that this role is gonna be added, they're gonna have added position, I would hope that they would have added access
Agreed.
and time to get their work done.
I know that I don't often contribute to discussions, but I feel like, I'm a bit relevant here. I would say that I am, as someone that's also not running for re-election, a huge advocate for increasing the amount of money that the clerk makes and increasing the responsibilities. I am doing, the legal requirements and things, but I think that there are a lot more projects that the clerk could be doing and helping out the township, like maintaining some of those older records. I've been able to do a bit of that, but like frankly, all the work that's there is not something I'm going to be able to get to in my term. And it's sad because I would like to, but I also have to have health insurance, right? And not saying that we need to give health, you know what I mean, but like greater compensation would allow for more hours and more of those responsibilities to be taken on.
That was pretty much what we had talked about.
I think that when we talk about responsibilities and duties, that's already very much laid out in the state law or the state statute. So I mean, that's a given, so now it's just a matter of compensating them. And what you folks think is a fair amount for what those are laid out. I think every one of you have a law and duties book that explains every one of our positions. Doing it, I mean, that's as clear as it can be.
Well, I think some things may not fully be there. I'll tell you, my job, right, that we've done, but I've done my job for over 30 years. And the world has changed,
Certainly.
right? So we didn't have, we had web pages, we had pamphlets that we passed out, we had all kinds of stuff. But now we need somebody to do social media. That wasn't necessarily a part of the planning. And so when we look at the book, and I get it, I'm just saying, I think that there are things that are not necessarily laid out that are a part of what needs to occur. Nobody says come in and turn on the lights. And if you don't have those automatic lights, And most people can't, like, we wouldn't do this in the dark, I don't think. Right? So if we didn't have something that made the lights come on, and I'm not trying to be
No,
small, I'm saying sincerely, I think there are ways in which we follow, and I think there are ways in which we lead. And so if we lead just to follow, I don't think that's progress. But I think if we follow to lead, then that makes sense. So we do. We look at the book, we understand our roles, but we also understand that our roles many times are bigger than what's in the book.
right,
And the book,
nothing stops us from expanding on it.
that's my point,
I think
yeah.
is where we're at.
Do you have a list of things that you think should be shifted over to the clerk that would justify an increase greater than just the normal 333 or whatever?
I don't have a list written down. Is that something you want me to send you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if we're just talking about making the clerk's role more robust and then compensating that person accordingly.
So I wrote down, take minutes, file minutes, upload to server, work on digitalizing past agendas minutes, prints, and buying board packets.
And you said a lot of the office people are doing other things that maybe a clerk should do. So I would personally want that list if we're gonna bump the clerks in addition to what we give for the yearly raises, if we're gonna give an adjustment to compensate for all these other duties, I would wanna know what they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
They would justify it,
I have to
Okay.
read my daughter, so.
Okay,
to justify it to everybody,
Okay.
you know, like, all right, these.
yep, we can do that, and we'll also address the space.
Okay, Yeah.
Maintain and digitize records.
Yeah, and,
Which we're lacking office space, that's gonna clear up a lot of office space.
yeah, and,
okay.
having occasional hours in the building.
Yeah, like posted hours.
Mhm.
Yeah, that would be a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
And then
So-
whatever the posted hours are, you know, we can kind of get an hourly wage in mind
Yeah.
that would be associated with that and then build that into the
Okay,
compensation.
A lot of clerks are FOIA officers as well. There's a lot of things you can handle.
Well, you can't use hourly wage per se because of elected, cannot collect an hourly wage, but
Yeah.
But yeah,
so I'll work on getting that list, probably in the next week or two, working with your notes and what responsibilities Kim is doing and that, and compiling that list so you have that to read in advance. So, other than that, attaching that list or do you feel that this copy, I mean, we're not taking a vote, but just
That
in
makes sense
agreement
to
that
me.
this copy is ready? The clerk thing in
Other than
section
the
3.
clerk part, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, in the section.
All right. So we will bring that back next month, for final approval. And I'll notify you when I send you that email so that you see it.
I have one more question, not to be difficult. So I asked Craig that he always had a road district treasurer, and he said that's you. Is that always the case, or is there?
so since I've been elected in 13, the supervisor under state statute is the treasurer for the road district.
Okay,
And that cannot be altered. And the pay here has always been $1,000 back to the supervisor to be the treasurer for the road district.
okay,
It's been that way. I don't know how long prior to my first election in 13.
okay. And that's a monthly 1,000 or
No, an annual.
annual? Oh, okay, okay.
All right. Any other questions on salary setting resolution? Okay.
That's for me.
All right, so next we have approval of the minutes of the regular Board of Trustees meeting September 11th, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
I'll second.
Have,
Session.
yeah, I have an amendment to make. I don't know why or how this happened, but trustee Bradley, you were definitely present at the last meeting, and for some reason on 2 votes, I put you as absent.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
All right, so you'll amend that?
Yes, already
Okay.
have.
Other than that amendment, all those in favor of the minutes with the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? Okay. And then last under new business is changing the date of the November 2024 meeting. It, according to our meeting schedule, the date should be November 13th. But that is the last day of the TOI conference. We'll be returning on that day. Anyone who attends, plus we'll be at the conference the days before, so preparing for the board meeting would be very, very difficult for me. So we're looking at adjusting that, what?
No, I'm kidding.
We're looking at adjusting that date to November 19th.
Which is a Tuesday.
Wait, don't we do a COI meeting?
We're gonna have to shift the COI meeting. The
Oh.
reason that we're having it on Tuesday instead of Wednesday is because the salary setting resolution has to be passed
Oh, yeah.
by November 20th, so we need a quorum. How's that looking for people?
I'm free.
I'm sorry, say the day again?
November 19th?
I will be out of town.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Lower the assessment.
Assessors,
Huh?
assessors matter.
Not as far as the board.
All right, so we're good with the 19th?
That's good on mine.
Okay. All right.
Change the 13th meeting to the 19th, and also 6 o'clock.
Yes. So we will post that on our website. No old business, no executive session, so our next Committee on Youth meeting is next week, October 15th at 5 p.m. And then, as we just discussed, our next regular Board of Trustees meeting is November 19th at 6 p.m. here at the township. So with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn, please.
A motion that we adjourn.
Okay, second. With that, the meeting is adjourned at 7:53.
In a voice vote.
Oh, yes, all those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Anyone opposed, abstained?